Hello, it's David. It's been a little while, I'm afraid, and there's a reason for that. Basically, if you remember, my wife gave birth about this time last year, and 1 year's maternity leave is up, and my wife's gone back to work, which means that whenever I'm not working, I'm babysitting, and vice versa. So extremely limited time to play with my toys, I'm afraid. So what I've thought I'll do is introduce a little bit of a new format that will hopefully let me get more content out, but albeit without the same narrative as my normal videos. So I'm going to be calling this B-roll. It's basically a looking over the shoulder kind of an exercise. It's going to be considerably less well edited, and like I say, it won't necessarily tell a story. There may be no conclusion. It's kind of just an update on what I'm doing. So these ones won't be sponsored. These ones will just be stream of consciousness, show you what's going on, and maybe actually I'll be able to make some progress with some feedback from you guys. What am I doing today then? Well, this is my STFM that I got working back in my last episode. And I'm having a look at the DSTB1 booster, which is what I've got here in the 68K debug board. See previous videos for information on both the 68K debug and the DSTB1 booster. But I've got all this plugged in at the moment, and I've got my programmer plugged in here, and I've got my logic analyzer plugged in here, and I've been working on some firmware because I've had a report that basically there's been some crashes, data corruption with DSTB1 and playing the Day of the Tentacle ST version from hard disk. So I've got myself my hard disk emulator again. See previous videos for this. This is the Steve Bradford Pico hard disk emulator here. So I've got this plugged in, and I thought, okay, I'll have a go at running this Day of the Tentacle, which has been kindly supplied to me to test with. But I've run into another problem. Just going back a step, my theory was that the access to the AltRAM, there's 8 megabytes of AltRAM installed here on the DSTB1. Access to the AltRAM only really works well at 16 megahertz, which is the speed that the CPU runs at when it's accessing AltRAM, or when it's not accessing SDRAM, or the motherboard to be more precise. And I have got it set up to allow DMA transfer into the memory, but I've never been convinced that that's particularly reliable. So my theory was that perhaps his hard disk drivers, although I think he did test with Emitos, which doesn't do it, so it might shoot that theory down, that those hard disk drivers were trying to DMA, or maybe there's some blitter work going into the RAM, and it was causing corruption. So what I thought I'd do is I would deconstruct the SDRAM. Pardon me, I have a terrible cold, and if I start hacking away, I'll try and cut some of that out, which is probably just what happened there. I'd have a go at working on the SDRAM Verilog class to really slow it down, make it much more pedestrian, really. We're not going for the speed initially, we're going for reliability, to let it run at effectively any CPU rate, or any access rate I should say, by basically what it would do is it would continually request data until such time as the data had been latched, which it kind of almost did, but only really for 16 megahertz timing and above. So I was working on that, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out why it wasn't working, and I had to take a step back. Can I actually exhibit the problem first of all? So what I did is I actually flashed my most recent, it's not quite the most recent stable, it's the one that I consider the most stable. So this is the firmware published on the GitHub repository from May 2022. So I've flashed this onto the DSTB1 here and booted up. This is only a 512K board, 8 megabytes on there. Booted off the hard disk emulator and run YART, and sure enough, here you go. You see it's running through. It's on your test 3, pass 1, no errors reported so far, and it's testing from hex 405B64 to C00000, which is almost the full 8 megabyte range. Obviously, there's something here in memory at the start of the 400000, which is where it starts. There's obviously something running in memory, and it's probably YART itself. It's probably EmuCon itself. It's possibly the desktop. This is EmuTOS on here. So that all seems to be working fine. And this particular version of the firmware glows the little LED green. I don't know whether that will come across on camera. Possibly not. It glows because it's buried all the way in there. It glows the little LED green when AltRAM is being accessed, and I can see from this angle that that's on pretty much permanently. So all looks good. Perfect for testing. Well, until I do this. I reset the machine. Up comes the EmuTOS screen saying, there we go, there's all my drives detected, there's the 512, there's the 8 megabytes of RAM, and I'll let it boot up. Okay, that time it worked. But basically, half of the time, it doesn't. It crashes out. And it crashes out when the autofolder program starts to run. And you can see the address here is hex 403DEC, so we're in the AltRAM region. If I reboot it and try again, okay, that time it worked. And there we go again. Right, this is at 400000. This is right at the absolute beginning of the AltRAM region. What's going on? This definitely worked before. And if I skip the autofolder program, I hold down Control. Oh, it's lost the keyboard. I've got an extension lead on the keyboard, and so sometimes the voltage is a bit too low for it. There we go. If I skip that, it'll load to the desktop absolutely fine, and I can browse things absolutely fine. But that in and of itself is using AltRAM. I can see the green light flashing as I scroll up and down. What's going on? So this is the stable version, and I thought that this should be absolutely fine. So it's possible that my development work, I was getting nowhere with my development work for this slow latch version. It's possible there's actually something fundamentally wrong with my DSTB1 here. Perhaps I've damaged the SDRAM, perhaps there's a bit of a dry joint, it's not been used for a little while. Perhaps there's something else going on. But this seems relatively repeatable. Not, you know, if it works, but then if it doesn't work, it really doesn't work. What the heck am I meant to do in order to test it? So here's the ST day of the tentacle. Blub, 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 blub. Fairly sure that that's the AltRAM. So the symptoms I was seeing with my my slow test was, oh, there we go. The symptoms I was seeing with my slow test was that YART, yet another Atari RAM tester TT version, would pass the tests absolutely fine, loop forever, as we just saw there on the RAM test, and be absolutely fine. But then you'd end up with problems like that, where the first thing that runs in AltRAM itself, half of the time, will fail. Makes debugging very difficult. So what I've been doing is break out of that. So what I've been doing is trying other versions of the firmware that I've published. So if you go onto my GitHub page, the very first version is from the 18th of April 2022. And if I program that one up, there we go. Do I get the same behaviour? Now, of course, this wasn't developed on this board, but I have seen it working on this board. I've shown it working on this board. No, there we go. 403DEC, pretty much the same address as the time before last, I think. Same behaviour. This particular version of the firmware doesn't have the green LED. There we go, so yacht testing. And now it'll work. And I can see that there's no green LED flashing in there because it's just this version of the firmware didn't have it. So if I actually try my latest development version, do I see the same behaviour? Have I been chasing a ghost with my development? You see this cursor stops flashing as I start programming. The machine may freeze or it may reboot when it's done. Probably shouldn't do this really. Putting a load of unspecified behaviour on the bus. So I would expect this to run more slowly. Oh, it's lost the bloody keyboard again. That pause you get when Emutos loads is when it's trying to read the real-time clock, and it can't basically, and so it pauses trying to, and the reason the real-time clock's located on the keyboard. That's where that comes from. Okay, so this is not showing that the 8 megabytes have been detected, and that's because I've actually disabled the first 4 megabytes in here just to stop Emutos auto-recognising it. But it means I can run YART still, just in stealth mode. So if we run YART and ask for, instead of 40, I'll ask for 800000 to C00000. Crash straight away. Okay, so actually this is even worse. That's interesting. A line F emulator error. The program counter is very much in STRAM there, so yeah, okay. I think that's a different issue then, and probably one related to my development rather than the same problem that we're seeing. My guess is that my guess is perhaps I'm corrupting the data bus by not releasing it quickly enough or something like that. No TTRAM available, I forgot to declare it. Yeah, no, fair enough. I've got to give it the memory location instead. 80000 to 81000. Yep, no, that crashes on line F emulation bug again. So yeah, that's possibly I'm trampling over the data bus or something. So okay, not quite the same problem. More work required on that. But I suspect what I've been doing is tinkering and making changes, trying to get it stable, not realising that there's this fundamental other issue in the background. So let's go back to my personal preference version, which is the May 22 firmware. And the only other thing I can think of, I mean, obviously this is a different machine, but I have seen it work. It wasn't the development machine, but I have seen it work on this machine. Definitely demonstrated it in videos past. But what I was doing is I was using a different hard disk emulator. Now I can't imagine it's going to have anything to do with that, but there's no harm in checking, is there? So I'm going to go and see if I can dig up my old cobbled together homemade hard disk emulator. Again, that's a previous video. So that's an ACSI to STM, and we'll just see whether the problem is still there. Okay, you see here's my my old homemade cobbled together ACSI to STM. Look how wobbly that is. But this is what all my previous development was done on, so why don't we give this a go. This does require me to feed it 5 volts, but I do have a 5 volt fly. Ooh, that's not going to reach. Is that floppy disk? Oh, that might reach. Pretty sure the red on the floppy disk connector is 5 volts. So it does require me to feed it 5 volts. No, I should give that a go. And of course this is my first version, not really gone further with it because it went commercial, and yeah, I could work on it some more, but it's a commercial product now and I don't really want to take money out of Exos and Steve's pockets. This is what I've been using since it's replaced it. Raspberry Pi Pico based. Very nice little form factor. I quite like it, but I've never got around to doing a second spin. Right, so the SD card should simply work there. Now we need to try and get power into this thing. I suppose I could technically power it from the USB. Oh. Lights are on. Okay, sometimes it takes a little bit of wiggling from my shonky soldering to get it recognised. So let's see how that goes. Yeah, nothing showing up. Give it a little bit of a wiggle. It's not been used for a long time. Lots of flishy flashy there. But yeah, nothing happening. I'm pretty sure this was left in a working condition. Maybe it doesn't like. Maybe it was a mistake to power it from that USB socket. Let's try to. Oh, can I get that onto there? I think those are both 5 volts. God, that's very tight. I think it might just reach. Yep, green flashy light. There we go. Okay, it was a mistake to power it from the USB. Right, there we go. So, well, I think we had our 8 meg show up, and sure enough, Yart is once again doing its thing. I'll let it just go through the own address test, and then we'll move on to doing the same appraisal. Yep. Okay. So let's. Are we going to get a crash this time? No. Go to desktop. Try running up from here. Don't tell me it's been my hard disk. Oh, don't tell me it's been my hard disk adapter all this time. Oh gosh. No, there we go. We're getting the same problem. Yeah, no, that's doing the same thing. So, very strange. Yart will work, but trying to actually run programs is sketchy at best and consistently crashing at worst. I can only think it has something to do with the frequency of calls to AltRAM. I don't know. Yart is obviously very slow and methodical. It writes things one at a time. It checks them back. It only writes in 16-bit words. Maybe there's a problem with the byte addressing. But why would that suddenly occur? I suppose I could have a loose connection on the DQM lines or something like that. But it's just so reliable here. And actually, to be fair, this is booting up. It's running that auto folder version of EmuCon. I'm still losing my bloody keyboard. I maybe need to beef up the power line going to the keyboard. Yeah. I mean, I've had this running mint. Okay, perhaps not on this machine with the 512, but this adapter board has definitely worked in the past. Do I have mint in here? Yeah, I do. forgot to disable that one. Should be able to exit that and it'll go on to Mint. PEXEC failed. Now that may be, that possibly is because there's only 512 megabytes in here, sorry, kilobytes in here. Yeah, and that is asking a lot for the Mint kernel. Although, yeah, I don't know when it starts using AltRAM. Now, NVDI will certainly we'll certainly use AltRAM for memory, so we can try that. I've still got NV cover. Okay, I can see AltRAM flashy. Yeah, it's loaded. So yeah, AltRAM's happy. Sorry, NVIDIA is happy with AltRAM. Oh yeah, I don't understand it. Let's try the CoreMark program. That doesn't hammer memory, I suppose, does it? Memory's involved, not enough memory. I'm surprised, is that not? Yeah. Not set up to exploit NVDI. I could try Tentacle again, can't I? And that one crashes with the illegal instruction. Well, I'm at a little bit of a loss. My options, as I see them, could be that I build another version of DSTB1 from scratch, make sure it doesn't have any issues. The only problem is I think I may have given all the boards away, all my spare boards away. So I suppose I could go over and reflow that. It's option 2, just make sure that there's everything working there. I could get the STE back out, the 4 megabyte STE, get the adapter card in, double check that we're not experiencing any problems on that front. Well, see whether it has the same issues. Then that would point to here. Otherwise, perhaps it points to this board. Perhaps this board still isn't quite as stable as I'd like it to be. Slight question mark perhaps over the hard disk adapter. The fact that this one boots routinely to the what's it called? To the emucon program that I've got in the auto folder there, whereas the other one is 50/50 at best. Why does YART work in all cases? Bit of a head scratcher all round. So this is my life. I have maybe about an hour a day, maybe 2 days a week to work on this sort of thing. So it's why you're not seeing much output from me at the moment, and why I've not been able to do anything on PyStorm or develop any more of these boards. But hopefully you'll see a little bit more of me with these sort of B-roll videos, as I'm going to call them. And if you've got any ideas, hit me up. To be honest, I've got all of this debugging rigged up here for a reason that is now pretty superfluous. So at least I can tidy this up and maybe go and have a rethink. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.